Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Jeffrey Perdue, and I'm an advanced sommelier as certified by the Court of Master Sommeliers, which is a formal way of saying I've tasted a lot of wine. The process at the core of their tasting philosophy is the deductive tasting method. With practice, you can deduce what a wine is and where it comes from. Today I'm going to demonstrate the deductive tasting method with the wine in my glass in front of me. The process will go in order from sight, nose, and palate through the conclusion. First, we are going to begin with the sight. Begin the sight portion by holding the glass by the stem, swirling the wine, and tilting it about 45 degrees against the white background. Assess the clarity, color, hue, brightness, and concentration, as well as whether the wine is opaque or how well you can see through it. This is a clear red wine, bright, of medium concentration, with a deep ruby core fading to a lighter pinkish rim of moderate opacity. Next, bring the glass upright. You want to pay special attention to how the wine clings to the glass as it moves down the sides. This is the viscosity of the wine, sometimes called the tears or legs, and is the final part of the sight component of tasting. If the tears are thin and move fast, the viscosity is low. If the tears are thick and slow moving, then viscosity is high. This wine has a moderate viscosity. After the sight portion of tasting is complete, it's now time to smell the wine. For the nose, or smell portion of tasting, bring the glass to your face and take a few sniffs at various places and distances from the wine. The first things to determine are whether the wine is clean or faulted and how intense the aromas are. Common faults found in wine produce smells like mothballs, wet dog, or vinegar, all undesirable. This wine is clean with a high intensity of aromas. The next thing to look for are fruit aromas, their character, and how youthful they are. Fruit character can range from tart through ripe and jammy, including stewed, dried, and baked. The primary fruit of this wine is ripe cherry and raspberry, with a little jammy black cherry in there as well. After assessing fruit, move on to the non-fruit characteristics. These categories can include, but are not limited to, herbal, vegetal, and floral. This wine smells like violets, black tea, and a little like cherry cola. Next, assess whether the wine is earthy. You want to look for things like living earth, that includes mushrooms and soil, as well as non-living or inorganic earth, like rocks and minerals. This wine smells a little bit like mushrooms, but overall isn't particularly earthy. The last thing to look for are indicators that the wine has been aged in oak barrels. These can include vanilla, baking spices, caramel, toasted coconut, among others. This wine definitely smells like cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla, so it most likely has been aged in oak. Now that you've finished with the nose, it's time to move on to the taste or the palate. Go ahead and get some wine in your mouth, swirl it around for a couple moments, and swallow. There are two features of the taste you want to examine: the structure and the flavors. For structure, examine the sweetness, tannins, acid, alcohol, and body. For sweetness, it's as simple as, is there any sugar present or not? Tannins are elements that can taste bitter and leave your mouth feeling dry, especially in high amounts. If you've ever had a cup of tea that's been steeped too long, that astringency and dry feeling, those are tannins at work. To calibrate acidity, think of a spectrum where high acidity is like sucking on a lemon, and low acidity is much more creamy, like olive oil or avocado. As alcohol is concerned, gauge it by how intense and deep you can feel the burn of the alcohol you swallowed. And for the body, when the wine was in your mouth, did it feel more like skim milk, 2%, or more like whole milk? This wine is dry, with moderate plus acidity, moderate tannins, moderate alcohol, and a moderate body. For the flavors, compare and contrast what you're tasting to what you smelled. Have the characteristics in the wine changed at all? Some wines grow more tart and earthy, which is a good indicator that the wine comes from an old world European country. If the wine grows more fruity and ripe, and the fruit or the non-fruit characteristics start to fade a little bit, then it is likely that the wine was made in the New World, namely the Americas or Australia or New Zealand. This wine is very fruit forward on the palate, and the slight earthiness has faded almost completely. The fruit is now quite jammy, overripe, and baked. Now that you've assessed the sight, smell, and taste of the wine, it's time to make a conclusion. For the conclusion, take a moment to think about the characteristics of the wine. Which ones were most prominent, and how did they change from the nose to the palate? You want to consider what grapes typically fit the profile of what you've tasted, what countries typically produce wines from those grapes, and the overall youthfulness of the components. At this point, you can eliminate the large majority of wine styles and begin to make a final deduction. This wine is from the New World, most likely from the United States. Due to its color, flavor profile, and intensity, this is a young wine, likely made from Pinot Noir. My final conclusion is that this is a 2019 Pinot Noir from California, United States. And it is a 2020 Pinot Noir from California, United States. To conclude this demonstration, using the deductive tasting method can help you determine what the wine in your glass is, as well as where it comes from. The process includes going through the sight, nose, and palate of the wine and making conclusions based on your deductions. You do not have to be a wine professional or a sommelier to employ this method, and with practice, you can become pretty accurate and quite good at it. Thank you so much for joining me today, and now it's time to enjoy the rest of the wine in your glass. Cheers.